Hey everybody, Adam here with Hometown Acres. Welcome back. It is a hot one out there today. It's about 90 degrees out and the humidity level is through the roof. I've got some things today that I want to do and some things that I have to do. And I think we're going to start with the things that I have to do, because what I really want to do is be sitting inside on the couch in the air conditioning. So this weekend we did a little trail riding with some friends, and normally whenever we do that, I always take the four-wheeler because I always say, this is for play, this is for work, this is just a lot more fun to drive. Actually, my saying is, you ride this, you drive this. This thing's like taking a school bus through the woods. But unfortunately, one of my friend's machines broke down, and so I needed to end up having to ride double with somebody, and I'd rather ride double in this than on the four-wheeler. And my machine, this is the first problem I've had with this CF Moto, and it's not a big one, but if you look under here, I must have got high center on a rock or a log or a rut or something like that, and it ripped my skid plate off. Now it's half off. It's a plastic skid plate, so at some point a more permanent fix is I want to completely tear off this entire plastic skid plate with a metal one, but for the time being, just to get it back up and running, I think I'm just going to try to zip tie it back up into place. Before I can do that though, I need to give it a good bath because it's filthy from going trail riding. And before I do that, I'm going to make an upgrade here on my pressure washing station and my garden hose station. You guys have seen in the past, I completely redid my whole pressure washer thing. I've got it now where when I want to go ahead and pressure wash something, all I have to do is pull this hose out, turn the water on, and turn the electric pressure washer on, and I'm ready to rock and roll. And I kind of want to do something similar with this. The problem is there is nothing anchoring this to the ground, so when you start rolling it out like that, and then when you go to reel it back up, you got to have your foot on it. Anyway, all that to say is I hate doing this. My pressure washer station here, it's on a retractable hose reel, so when I pull it out, it's nice and easy, it stays put, and then when I want to retract it back in, it coils itself back up. So what we have here is a retractable garden hose reel from VEVOR. I will leave a link in the description below, but I already know it's going to be awesome because I have seen Kyle from Spicer Designs got something similar to this, and it just looks, you know, it's the little things in life, right? Like, that's not that big of a deal, but this just makes it that much better, that much easier to use, and if it's easy to use, you'll use it more often and keep your stuff cleaner. I'll tell you one thing that I like already. It comes with, looks like a pretty nice garden hose handle here. I'll tell you what, this is a pretty nice looking unit, honestly. It certainly looks a lot better than this. And it's going to be mounted to the wall, so when you pull it out, it's going to stay in place. All right, let's go ahead and get this thing disassembled, get this area cleaned up, get this mounted to the wall, and then we'll get the side-by-side washed. All right, so because we have this liner panel in here, which is basically metal roofing, and it's ribbed, it makes mounting things to the wall, you have to take an extra step. So you can see for this whole pressure washer station system I have here, what I ended up doing is putting a spacer block in underneath there, and I'm going to do the same thing here. That way you can build out past the ribbing and give yourself a flat surface to mount something to the wall. Whenever I can, I try to reuse the holes that are already here in case I change things or whatever. I'm not putting 1,000 holes in this liner panel here, so I try to poke as few new holes in the liner panel as I can. All right, now the hard part is done. Now comes the easy part. This could not be simpler to get mounted on here. There's basically just this pin here, and as long as I can line up the holes, this just drops right down through. There, and we are mounted. And because that is on a pin, it actually allows this to swivel, which is a very nice feature. Now, I don't know if you guys can see this or not, but I have a T connection here, so I can actually have two water sources off of one water line. One goes up to the pressure washer, and one is going to go to this garden hose here. This does come with everything you need to mount it up, with the exception of obviously the extra stuff I had to do here because of the ribbing on the garage. But I mean, we're pretty much ready to hook up the nozzle and try this thing out. One thing I wish it had is some place to like hook onto here, because otherwise it's just dangling like that. Although, you know what? You can loosen this up and slide it all the way back, so it'll actually retract it all the way in, and then your nozzle will just be hanging right there. I think I'm going to do that. Yeah, I like that a lot better. All right, let's test it out. Water on. Probably going to take a little while to blow all the air out of the line. There we go. I like it. Let's see how it retracts. Oh my God, that is so much better. I am a huge fan of retracting reels. Let me show you how much of a fan I am. Retractable pressure washer reel, retractable garden hose reel, retractable air hose reel, and retractable extension cord. You guys don't have all your stuff on a retractable reel, what are you doing? All right, let's get both of these things cleaned up, and then we'll take care of that skid plate.
So I always like to do a final rinse with a garden hose, because if you ever used a pressure washer, you know that it just pushes suds or dirt or anything like that from one side of the machine to the other, and you're just always fighting it, whereas an actual garden hose actually just gets it to rinse and fall off.
All right, both machines are clean. Here's the best part. Cleanup is done. All right, now that we got this thing up on ramps, we can really see what happened here. So this skid plate goes up like this. It looks like this bolt backed out, which then started to let this hang. And then when we must have caught it on something, because now it's got a lip to catch on things, it ripped it off of this bolt that did not come out. And I was gonna just try to zip tie it up here temporarily, but I actually just got off the phone with Kyle from Spicer Designs, and he gave me a good recommendation. He said, just get some self-tappers and just tag this thing back up here in a couple different spots. So I think that's going to be a little bit more permanent of a fix and be better than zip ties. So let's get that going. All right, now that this project is wrapped up, that is all of the things that I had to get done. Now we're gonna get to the one thing that I've been wanting to do, which is building another firewood bucking table. We're actually gonna be heading up to the Woodsman's Field Days up in Boonville, New York, August 15th, 16th, and 17th. We're gonna take a couple of our firewood bucking tables up there and have them on display. But while we're building that, I've got a story for you about a guy who ordered one, and I want you to let me know what you guys think about it.
So this all started about a year ago when I built my first firewood cutting table. I built it for myself out of rough sawn hardwood, and I did a video on it. Well, since then I've had a handful of people ask for plans for the table, which I don't have, but I could make up if there's enough people interested. But I kind of figured for most people this is a do-it-yourself kind of job. I didn't think there'd be anybody out there interested in actually having me build one for them. And then I got an email from a guy who said he wanted me to build him one. He had a few carpenter friends that he had showed my video to, and they all said, "Oh yeah, we could definitely build you something like that, no problem." Well, months went by and it appeared as though it wasn't a priority for them. So after having given up on them, he decided to reach out to me. He already has video proof that I'm capable of building it. Anyway, so the guy sends me a nice email. He's a fan of the channel. He's in his mid-50s. He cuts firewood and he's tired of cutting logs on the ground and his back can't take it anymore. And he leaves his phone number. So rather than going back and forth via email, I pick up the phone and call him, and the guy literally said, "Oh my God, I can't believe I'm talking to Adam from Hometown Acres." Now, I'm not telling you this because I think I'm a big deal. I'm literally just a guy who cuts firewood and builds stuff and records it with his cell phone. I'm telling you this because this guy apparently thought I was a big deal. I hope if I ever get the chance to meet any of you guys in person at a show or something like that, that you don't make it into something bigger than it is. I'm just some guy. I don't want to disappoint anybody. Anyway, so I tell this guy I've got a lot going on this summer. I really don't have time to build him a table right now unless it's worth my time to drop one of my other projects I have going on. I said, I'm going to give you my price, and I want to give you fair warning. It's more than I would want to spend on it. But for me to move you up the list of things I have to do this summer, here's what I'd have to charge to make it worth my time. I gave him my price, and I was honestly expecting him to have some sort of sticker shock. It seemed expensive to me, but he literally didn't even flinch. Immediately he came back with, "Oh, that's not that bad. That's about what I was expecting." So we started talking about timelines and how he was going to come pick it up. After talking with him, he seemed like he wanted to build it himself. He just lacked the skills or the know-how, which I can relate to. I didn't know how to do any of this stuff 5 years ago, and a combination of learning from good friends like neighbor Doug and Kyle from Spicer Designs, I've started to acquire some skills. I've got a long way to go, but I'm a lot further ahead than I used to be 5 years ago. So since I can tell this guy is a fan, I asked him if he would actually like to come build it with me. I've done a number of what I would call adult shop classes over at neighbor Doug's and thought this guy would really appreciate the opportunity, and he emphatically said yes, he would love to. Now, a couple days later, a friend from Easton Made Wood Splitters actually called me and said they wanted to buy a table too to donate to one of their really loyal customers who had purchased a couple of splitters, and they were cutting all their logs in the ground. They actually have a YouTube channel too. It's called Twin River Wood Products, so if you want to see where one of our tables has ended up and how they're liking it, check it out. Anyway, all that to say, now I've got 2 tables to build, and it's going to be a little bit more involved than just a one-day project. So I messaged the guy and say, "Hey, I'm really sorry. I just got another order for a table, so I'm not going to be able to have you come build your table with me. I'm going to be a little bit under the gun and rush to get these done, but I'll message you when it's done and we can arrange pickup." And he said that's fine. He understood. A couple days later, Mark from Easton Made comes and picked up his table and takes it to Twin River Wood Products. And I messaged the other guy who originally emailed me and said, "Hey, I don't know if you saw the video or not, but the table is ready for pickup. When would you be available to come pick it up?" Now keep in mind, this is at the beginning of June, and the guy messages me back and says end of July, beginning of August. And my initial reaction was, what? That's like 8 to 10 weeks away. I would have thought he'd be, chomping at the bit to come pick this thing up as soon as it was done. And he said, "Well, we just got back from a vacation and I don't have any PTO time left." And now granted, he is coming from 7 hours away to come pick it up. So I do get that it's probably a 2-day trip to come pick it up. But if it was me, I'd leave Friday after work, get a hotel, come first thing in the morning, Saturday morning, pick it up and be on my way home and be home by Saturday night. Now I know everybody's circumstances are different. Maybe he works weekends or something like that, but surely he doesn't work 7 days a week. So I'm like, all right, whatever, that's fine. I'll just be patient. So I've been storing this thing in my barn for the last 6 weeks, and I message him again, middle of July, and say, "Hey, we're approaching the end of July. Let's start to come up with a game plan. When are you coming? What trailer are you bringing? So I can think about how we're going to get you loaded up and strapped down, etc." I'm just trying to be proactive. He texts back and says, "Currently dealing with unforeseen layoffs at work. As much as I want the table, I need to keep a close eye on expenses. If things improve, I'll give you a call." Now I'm in no position to say whether this guy actually lost his job or not, and if he did, I do feel bad for him. My dad lost a job due to layoffs in his 40s, and I know what kind of stress that can add. That being said, I do also recognize that it is a very common thing to say when you're having second thoughts, much like, let me go home and talk it over with the wife. One thing I forgot to mention is early on, this guy did offer to put a deposit down on the table, and I declined, which was my own fault. We'll chalk that up to a learning experience, but from now on, I will definitely be requiring a deposit based on this experience. But I want to hear from you guys. What do you think about this situation? There's two sides to every story, and this is just my side of the story, but from my point of view, this guy approached me out of the blue, commissioned me to build him a table when I was not actively trying to build or sell these tables, and then when it was done and ready for pickup, it seemed like he got cold feet. To me, it'd be like going to the Ford Motor Company and having them build you a custom F-150, waiting 6 weeks for it to be built, and then backing out of the deal when it was ready for pickup. It would be one thing if I stocked an inventory of these tables and he said he wanted one and then backed out, easy and outright, just put it back on the shelf, so to speak. But I don't. These are made to order. I never would have built this table if he hadn't reached out to me. I mean, at the end of the day, it's not a huge deal. I have no doubt I will sell this table, hopefully at the Woodsman's Field Day show coming up here in Boonville, New York in the middle of August.
All right, guys, now we have two of these firewood cutting tables, the one that we just got done building and the one that the guy ordered and unfortunately never came to pick up. But again, we will be at the New York State Woodsman's Field Days in Boonville, New York, August 15th, 16th, and 17th. That's a Friday, Saturday, Sunday. We will have both of these tables up there with us, one at the Easton Made booth and one at the Wolf Ridge booth. If you have been interested in one of these, you'll be able to save yourself a little bit of shipping. I will also have a special show price on these up there as well, so they will be for sale. If you're in the area or if you were already planning on attending the show, I hope to see you there. And I hope you guys enjoyed this video. If you did, give me a big thumbs up, click that subscribe button, and we'll catch you on the next one. Thanks for watching.